It's a very big day for the Indian Navy. It's a very big day for self-reliance in military hardware. And it's a very big day in terms of how the Indian Navy sends out a message of strength and deterrence in the Indian Ocean. An indigenous stealth-guided missile destroyer significantly named INS Imphal after the capital of the state of Manipur was today commissioned into service. This is the beautiful ship up close through India Today's cameras. This is in Mumbai, where the ship has just been handed over to the Indian Navy. It goes from being called just Imphal to INS Imphal, where INS stands, of course, for Indian Naval Ship. Imphal holds the distinction of being the first warship named after a city in the northeast, highlighting the importance of the region for national security and prosperity. INS Imphal being commissioned into service today is of particular importance because of what has been happening in Manipur this year as well. Well, before anyone tries to read too much into the name Imphal was decided long before the unfortunate and tragic situation erupted in Manipur earlier this year. But INS Imphal will be the first of her name in Indian Naval Service, and isn't she a handsome ship? This is a warship that boasts of a very high level of indigenous homegrown content, approximately 75%. This includes not just the ship itself, but the BrahMos surface-to-surface missiles, medium-range surface-to-air missiles, anti-submarine indigenous rocket launchers, and 76mm super rapid gun mount. That's the main gun you see on the ship's deck. Now, this is a ship that has been designed entirely in India. The engines are from abroad. Some of the other systems, including the main radar, are from Israel, but 75% of this amazing destroyer are completely indigenous, and it goes a long way in helping the Indian Navy and the Indian military at large achieve elusive self-reliance, Atmanirbharta in defense goals. INS Imphal is equipped to fight under nuclear, biological and chemical warfare conditions and has a very high degree of automation and stealth features, further enhancing its combat capability and survivability. Take a look at this report from the ground from the beautiful commissioning ceremony today.
With the slogan of Jalmeva Yasya Balmeva Tasya, Indian Navy commissioned INS Imphal into Indian Navy today. Indian Navy has commissioned the most powerful warship right now in India. It's INS Imphal. INS Imphal is the third installment of Visakhapatnam class series, which is very much destructive and the most destructive machine that India has right now. INS Imphal is the first warship to have a mess provision for women sailors and women officers. Inside the warship, 12 beds are prepared for female sailors with attached bathroom and toilets. The arrangement has been designed for the first time in the warship before commissioning. This Indian warship has been named in the memory of veterans of the Battle of Hawaii during World War II, and this is the first warship which has been named after a state in northeast. Or the ship can move at the speed of 33 kilometers per hour and can stay in sea continuously for 45 days. 50 officers and more than 300 sailors can be deployed on their warship. The power and the domination of India has been continuously increasing in the sea arena, and now after the commissioning of INS Imphal, now Imphal will protect Indian sea borders and Mother India.
इस जहाज में खास जैसे कि मेरे पीछे है, ये इंडिजिनियस रॉकेट लॉन्चर है, तो कोई भी पनडुब्बी, दुश्मन की पनडुब्बी आसपास अगर डिटेक्ट होती है तो इसको फायर कर कर दुश्मन की पनडुब्बी को डुबाया जा सकता है, या उससे ये महत्वपूर्ण ये भी है कि उसको नीचे ही रखा जा सकता है जिसके कारण वो शिप पर अटैक ना करे। इसके अलावा जैसे कि आप यहाँ देखते हैं, ये है MRSAM, ये भी इंडिजिनियसली अब डेवलप हो रहा है अलॉन्ग विद पार्टनरशिप विद II इजराइल, और ये सारे एरियल थ्रेट्स जो कि एयरक्राफ्ट, मिसाइल्स और UAVs को अटैक करा जा सकता है इससे, एंड उनको टेक डाउन करा जा सकता है।
इस शिप में सबसे बड़ी अच्छी चीज़ है कि यहाँ का जो IPMS इंटीग्रेटेड प्लेटफॉर्म मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम इंडिजिनसली LNT के द्वारा बनाया गया है, जिससे एक जगह से आप सारे के सारे मशीनरी जो हैं उसको मॉनिटर भी कर सकते हैं और कंट्रोल भी कर सकते हैं। इम्फाल को अगर एक सक्षम तौर से बोला जाए तो ये एक मूव करता हुआ स्मार्ट सिटी है, जो खुद से अपना पावर जनरेशन भी कर रहा है, खुद ही अपने आप को शिप को पूरा ठंडा रखा हुआ है। आप इसके एसी प्लांट्स की अगर देखें तो 1100 टन ऑफ रेफ्रिजरेशन की कैपेसिटी है, जिसमें आप किसी भी क्लाइमेट में कभी भी आएंगे तो ऐसा ही ठंडा आपको महसूस होगा। 120 टन ऑफ फ्रेश वाटर हम हर दिन बनाते हैं, जिससे जो शिप्स के क्रू हैं उनकी जो भी रिक्वायरमेंट रहती है फ्रेश वाटर को हमेशा मीट कर जाती है।
It was Defence Minister Rajnath Singh who presided over the commissioning ceremony of the INS Imphal. While speaking at the induction ceremony, the Defence Minister made a very big related statement. Remember, INS Imphal is a frontline warship. It's not a showpiece. This is an instrument of combat. It's an instrument of war. And the true strength in a ship of this kind, of course, is if it never needs to be used. The very idea that India has a ship like the Imphal should work as a deterrent. And this is of special significance today and this week especially, because Indian ships and Indian merchant vessels and merchant vessels carrying trade for India have been under attack in West Asia, in the Red Sea, in the Arabian Sea by Iran and the Houthi rebels. They've been firing drones, they've been firing missiles at merchant ships in order to send out a message to Israel and create a situation where shipping traffic cannot enter the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea and reach countries like Israel. And that's one of the reasons why the INS Imphal entering service today becomes so important. Listen to what Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said today after 2 merchant vessels were attacked on the same day, on December the 23rd.
आजकल समुद्र में हलचल कुछ ज्यादा बढ़ गई है। भारत की बढ़ती आर्थिक और सामरिक ताकत ने कुछ ताकतों को ईर्ष्या और द्वेष से भर दिया है। अरब सागर में हाल में हुए यमवी चैंप प्लूटो पर ड्रोन हमले और कुछ पहले लाल सागर में यमवी साईं बाबा पर हुए हमले को भारत सरकार ने बहुत ही गंभीरता पूर्वक लिया है। भारतीय नौसेना ने समुद्र की निगरानी बढ़ा दी है। जिन्होंने भी इस हमले को अंजाम दिया है उन्हें हम सागर तल से भी ढूंढ निकालेंगे और उनके खिलाफ कठोर कार्रवाई की जाएगी। मैं यह आपको आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं। नेशनल इंटरेस्ट में हमारे ग्लोबल ट्रेड का एक बहुत बड़ा महत्व होता है, इसलिए हमारे लिए जरूरी हो जाता है हम अपनी स्ट्रांग नेवल कैपेबिलिटी को डेवलप करें। INS इम्फाल भारत की बढ़ती समुद्री ताकत को दिखाता है और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि इंडो पैसिफिक रीजन में INS इम्फाल जलमेव यस्य बलमेव तस्य, यानी जिसका जल उसका बल कि हमारे सिद्धांत को और मजबूती प्रदान करेगा। INS इम्फाल का भारतीय नौसेना में शामिल होना रक्षा क्षेत्र में भारत की आत्मनिर्भरता का यह जीता जागता प्रमाण है। INS इम्फाल की कमीशनिंग भारत की नौसैनिक शक्ति को और मजबूती प्रदान करेगा, ऐसा मेरा पक्का विश्वास है। उत्तर दक्षिण पूरब पश्चिम हर जगह का प्रताप INS इम्फाल में शामिल है, जो भारत की एकता और अखंडता को दर्शाता है। साथियों, मेरी दृष्टि से INS इम्फाल की सबसे बड़ी विशेषताओं में से एक है उसका पूरी तरह से भारत में ही कंसेप्चुअलाइज्ड, डिजाइन और कंस्ट्रक्टेड होना।
The Indian Navy has responded because this is the Indian Navy's area of influence. This is the Indian Ocean region, the Arabian Sea is where much of our trade comes from, especially in terms of energy and oil. And that's the reason why the Indian Navy, which usually deploys maybe 1 ship in the Persian Gulf and in the Arabian Sea for deterrent operations, now has 3 stealth destroyers, all operating in the Arabian Sea. There is the INS Kolkata, INS Mormugao, and INS Kochi. 3 very, very advanced, homegrown, stealth guided missile destroyers are all now patrolling the Arabian Sea. They are also being aided in their operations by a P-8I aircraft, which is a Boeing 737 submarine hunter, long-range surveillance aircraft that is conducting surveillance operations. So this is the Indian Navy baring its fangs and sending out a message on behalf of the free world, really, that it means business. Drones and missiles might be sent to attack ships that are making their way through the shipping lanes of the Arabian Sea, but the Indian Navy is now there, and it will do everything it can to make sure that those who have attempted to damage ships headed for India or which impact India will pay for what they have done. Whether they are in Iran, whether they are in Yemen, the Houthis, whoever it is, if they dare to affect shipping traffic, they will be hearing from the Indian Navy. Now, the two ships that were both attacked on the same day, December the 23rd, the Liberian-flagged ship and a Japanese-owned ship, MV Kem Pluto, with 20 Indian crew members, one Vietnamese crew member, caught fire after it was attacked on December 23rd by a suspected drone about 270 kilometers off India's coast. It was later secured by the Indian Coast Guard and the Indian Navy, which said in an official statement that the ship has now been brought back to an Indian port. Elsewhere in the Red Sea, on the same day, Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels carried out a string of drone missile attacks in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza, where Israel is battling Hamas terrorists. The US Central Command says the vessel called MV Sai Baba was targeted by a drone launched by Houthi militants in the southern Red Sea, which is just near the Persian Gulf. This also happened on December the 23rd. A large part of Indian trade, viewer, let me repeat once again, passes through this area, and that's why this impacts India directly. Now, let me just give you some data about why this has become so serious and why the Indian Navy has deployed 3 destroyers. You know, practically never done that before unless something is this serious. There have been 15 attacks on merchant vessels since October the 17th. 10 days after the Hamas attack on Israel, since 10 days after that, there have been 15 separate attacks, all of them by Iran or the Houthi rebels. The MV Sai Baba that I just told you about was hit by a Houthi drone or missile on December the 23rd. The same day that MV Kem Pluto, which was headed towards Mangaluru, was hit about 270 kilometers off the Indian coast by an Iranian drone. Iran has denied it, but the United States says they have proof that it was an Iranian drone. Earlier, on December the 14th, the MV Ruan was hijacked on December the 14th. So these are just 3 examples among 15 warships that have either been attacked or hit by drones or hijacked in just the last couple of weeks. So things are very, very precarious in the Arabian Sea, Persian Gulf area, and that's the reason why the Indian Navy, which has just welcomed a brand new destroyer into service, has deployed 3 of its homegrown destroyers in the Arabian Sea. And I just wanted to tell you that a day after Defence Minister Rajnath Singh today commissioned INS Imphal into Indian Naval Service, well, there's no rest because the Raksha Mantri tomorrow is headed to Rajouri in Jammu and Kashmir. This was first reported by India Today yesterday after the Army Chief. Now, Rajnath Singh heads to Jammu and Kashmir, where he will be visiting Rajouri tomorrow. He will be spending time with the Army. We understand he will also interact with civilians in some of those areas. Things are extremely tense following the deaths of 3 civilians for which Army personnel have been blamed for using undue force. Day 7 of the counter-terror operations in Rajouri and Poonch are currently underway. Remember, no terrorists have so far been found or killed in an encounter and an ambush that has seen 4 army men being killed, 3 civilians being killed in possible retaliatory attacks, but no terrorists have so far been found or eliminated. Rajnath Singh is expected to also chair a high-level security review meeting when he is in Jammu tomorrow. Let's go straight across to India Today's Sunil Ji Bhatt for more on the story. Sunil, the army has already begun to take disciplinary action. Brigadier in the area has been attached, pending an inquiry against him. 3 officers are also said to have been acted against by the army. The fact that Rajnath Singh goes there 2 days after the army chief went there means that the government is taking this extremely seriously, because this is very sensitive still and could still spiral out of control. So for Rajnath to be there is important. We understand, apart from meeting the army, Sunil, he might also interact with some people from the villages. Is that true?
Absolutely, Shiv. That's the information we have got, that Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh, his agenda for this visit is to review the security measures, review the ongoing anti-terror operation that is going on in the twin border districts of Rajouri and Poonch. But he's also likely going to reach out to the civilians. He's going to reach out to the people of Rajouri and Poonch, particularly after what happened to those 3 civilians. Their dead bodies were found under mysterious circumstances, and then there were allegations of human rights violations against the army. The damage control has been done. Army has acted swiftly and promptly. A brigadier level officer has been attached, and similar action has been taken against 3 more officers. So army has sent out a very, stern message that they are not going to tolerate any breach of protocol, SOPs, or the standards of the Indian Army. So Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh's visit assumes great significance because this comes after the visit of Army Chief General Manoj Pandey. And as you said, that it's clear that whether it's the security establishment or the defense ministry, they have taken the recent developments in Rajouri and Poonch very seriously. There is a strategy that is being developed to ensure that the terrorists that are hiding in the forest belt of Dera Ki Gali, Baflias, that these terrorists are traced and eliminated as soon as possible. But a strategy is also being developed to win the hearts and minds of the people in the region, because the Indian Army has invested immensely in winning hearts and minds of the people under Operation Sadbhavna. Or even the Indian Army has carried out developmental work both in the Kashmir Valley and in the far-flung areas of Jammu region. Shiv, you have been to Rajouri, Poonch, you have been to many parts of the Kashmir Valley, and you have seen the kind of work Indian Army has done to win the hearts and minds of the people. But aberrations like these, definitely cause a severe dent, and that is why damage control is being done.
And that's also the reason why, Sunil and his team, we here are going to continue to ask the tough questions. We are fully conversant with how sensitive operations can be, but accountability needs to be fixed. These are our own citizens. The terrorists must be eliminated. We will continue to track that story very, very closely. Sunil, thank you very much for that update. Now, viewer, I wanted to use a few minutes on my show today to bid farewell to an army officer you've perhaps never heard of, Lieutenant Colonel Karanbir Singh Nutt. He was commissioned into the Territorial Army in 2013 after a 20-year career in the Indian Army. 2 years into his second stint in uniform, in November 2015, Colonel Nutt was part of a search operation in North Kashmir's Kupwara. During one particular part of the search operation in the densely forested Haji Naka village area, Colonel Karanbir Singh Nutt and 3 of his soldiers came under fire from a terrorist who was hiding there. Without a second thought, Colonel Nutt sprang forward and pushed all 3 soldiers backwards, saving their lives in the process. But in doing so, the officer took a bullet straight in his face, in fact, in his jaw. He didn't fall. He remained standing, changed position, and continued firing from extremely close range, dangerously close range, until that terrorist had been eliminated. All the while, the officer was issuing instructions to his soldiers to remain out of the line of fire while he took care of business like a true leader. His valor ensured that the encounter ended without any casualties in the army, but the gunshot wound he sustained was a grievous one. The officer slipped into a coma, one that he would largely remain in for the next 8 years since 2015. Yesterday, this brave officer, Lieutenant Colonel KBS Nutt, passed away. He is survived by his wife, 2 daughters, and his father, an army officer himself. For Colonel Nutt, nothing came above saving lives, even at the cost of his own. Farewell, Colonel Nutt, and thank you for your service.
I'm very proud of my son. He has done his duty, fought with his injuries, and ultimately it was God's will which has taken place, which has happened. 8 ਸਾਲ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਆਪਣੀ ਬਿਮਾਰੀ ਨਾਲ WhatsApp ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਟੇਟਸ ਸੀ ਉਹਦਾ. I do not know how my story will end, but no one will say I gave up.
I can't explain कि ऐसे की फेस किया है. Hope से ठीक हो जाएंगे. We are proud of it.